your eyes for a moment. Most people wake up in the morning and immediately reach for their phone, check their social media, and step right into their past. The moment you start thinking about your problems, those problems are connected to memories in the brain. Memories etched with emotions. If you wake up and feel the same way you did yesterday, you are effectively living in the past. To change your personal reality, you must first change your personality. Your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. Therefore, the present you has created the present life you are living. If you want to create a new life, you have to become someone else. Here is the blueprint for that transformation. You are not hardwired to be a certain way for the rest of your life. You are a marvel of neuroplasticity. When you change your internal state, the external world has no choice but to organize itself to match your new frequency. Wait for a crisis or a diagnosis to change. Start today. Define your future by a vision, rather than being defined by the memories of your past. To understand the magnitude of changing your personal reality, first come to terms with the biological fact that by the time we are 35 years old, 95% of who we are is a memorized set of behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, and conditioned perceptions. We become a literal computer program. You wake up on the same side of the bed, you go through the same routine in the shower, you drink from the same mug, and you drive the same route to a job where you see the same people who push the same emotional buttons. By doing this, your brain and body are functioning in a predictable loop. This is the habit of being yourself. When you live this way, your brain is a record of the past. Every person, every object, and every place in your life is mapped in your brain as a known entity. Therefore, looking at your world through the lens of your memories, you are recreating the same reality every single day. The habit is not just what you do, it is the neurological and chemical state of your existence. Your body, which is the subconscious mind, has become addicted to the chemical cocktail of your daily stress, your daily anxiety, or your daily self-pity. It relies on those familiar feelings to know that it is you. To break this habit, transition from being a somebody in this three-dimensional reality, someone with a name, a profession, a history, and a set of problems, to becoming nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, in no time. This is the act of stepping into the generous present moment. The present moment is the only place where the creative power of the universe exists. However, for most people, the present moment is uncomfortable because it is the unknown. The unknown is scary to the ego because it cannot be predicted. But if you can stay in that void, if you can settle your body down when it wants to get up and check your email or make a phone call, you are finally asserting your will over your conditioning. Breaking the habit of being yourself requires an intense level of self-awareness. You must become the observer of your thoughts rather than the victim of them. Those automatic thought patterns, the ones that say, I can't, it's too hard, or I'll start tomorrow, and realize that those are not truths, they are just programs. When you catch yourself in the act of an old behavior or an old thought, you are beginning to pull the plug on the old personality. You are essentially pruning the synaptic connections that keep you tethered to the old reality. This is a process of unlearning. Most people think personal growth is about adding new skills. It is actually about stripping away the layers of the false self. It is about biological deprogramming. When you stop responding to the environment with the same emotional intensity, you stop signaling the same genes. Start to reclaim the energy that was once bound to your past. This energy is now available for you to design a new future. You are no longer a victim of your biology. You are the architect of your destiny. You are moving from a state of survival where you are constantly reacting to the world, to a state of creation where you are directing the world from within. To understand the mechanics of transformation, we must examine the bridge between the mind and the body. Most people are unaware that their feelings have become the means by which they think. Because the body is the subconscious mind, it does not know the difference between an actual experience that creates an emotion and an emotion you create by thought alone. When you wake up and remember your problems, those memories produce an emotional charge. The moment you feel that familiar bitterness, sadness, frustration, your brain signals the body to release the exact chemicals that match those thoughts. Now, body is feeling the way you are thinking, and because you feel that way, you begin to think more thoughts that match that feeling. This creates a closed loop where your thinking is equal to your feeling. This cycle is what keeps you trapped in your current reality. To change, you must learn to think greater than how you feel. If you cannot think greater than your current emotional state, you can never evolve. You will simply repeat the same day over and over. You decide to change and you sit down to create a new life. Your body will immediately send a signal to the brain saying, "You can't do this, it doesn't feel right." What the body is actually saying is that it is no longer in the driver's seat. It has been conditioned to be the master, and now that you are trying to change the internal chemistry, it is panicking. It wants to return to the familiar, even if the familiar is painful, because the familiar is safe. Thinking greater than you feel is the act of mental discipline. It requires you to reach for thoughts that are independent of your current environment and your current bodily sensations. If you are sick, you must think of health. If you are in lack, you must think of abundance. This is not positive thinking. This is a biological intervention. You are intentionally changing your brain's circuitry by focusing on a reality that has not yet manifested in the physical world. You are using the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain, to look at the landscape of all possibilities and select a new one. When you hold the thought with enough focus, the brain begins to fire in new sequences and new patterns. The challenge is that the body has been the mind for so long that it will try to talk you out of your greatness. It will tell you that you are tired, that you don't have enough time, or that this meditation stuff isn't working. These are just the cravings of the body looking for its chemical fix of stress hormones. If you can persist, if you can stay in that seat and continue to think greater than those sensations, you begin to break the physical bond between the body and the old self. You are essentially telling the body that it is no longer the mind. This is the moment of liberation. You are moving from a state of being produced by your feelings to a state where you are the producer of your thoughts. By the law of neuroplasticity, whatever you repeat becomes a habit. If you practice thinking greater than you feel every single day, you eventually reach a tipping point where the new thoughts become the dominant program. You start to feel empowered before you have success. You start to feel whole before you are healed. This is the ultimate subversion of the standard model of reality. Instead of waiting for something outside of you to change how you feel inside, you are changing how you feel inside to change what happens outside. You are becoming a creator of your world rather than a victim of it. This process requires you to fall in love with the vision of your future more than you are in love with the memories of your past. If you want to create a new personal reality, confront the fact that most of your energy is currently tied up in the past. Every time you have an experience in your life, the brain receives sensory information, and the end product of that experience is an emotion. When that emotion is strong, is the trauma of a betrayal, the sting of a failure, or the shock of an accident, it creates a long-term memory. Over time, that memory becomes etched into your nervous system. If you haven't processed or moved past that emotion, you are literally living in the past because your body is still reacting as if that event is happening right now. You are biologically tethered to an old version of yourself. The body is so objective that it does not know the difference between a real life experience and the memory of an experience that triggers the same emotional response. If you wake up and your first thought is of a person you dislike or a situation that caused you pain, you are turning on the stress response just by thinking. You are sending a flood of cortisol and adrenaline through your system. Your body believes it is in the same threatening environment it was in years ago. Most people are addicted to these emotions of survival. They use the people and conditions in their life to reaffirm their emotional addiction to the past. They need their enemies to feel anger. They need their problems to feel victimized. This is the ultimate energetic bond, and as long as your energy is invested in the past, you have no energy left to create a new future. To break this bond, you must become conscious of your unconscious emotional states. You have to realize that every time you dwell on a past grievance, you are signaling the same genes in the same way, and you are literally moving your body out of the present moment. Breaking the emotional bond to the past means you must master your emotional body. It requires you to stop the chemical cycle of reacting to the same triggers. When you decide to no longer be defined by your history, you begin to take your power back. You are essentially telling your body that the past is over. This is not a simple intellectual exercise. It is a visceral, energetic liberation. You are pulling your energy out of the familiar past and placing it into the unknown future. If you are waiting for your circumstances to change so that you can finally feel joy or peace, you are still operating in the old model of cause and effect. You are waiting for something out there to take away the lack here. But the quantum model of reality demands that you feel the emotion of the event before the event occurs. You must teach your body emotionally what your future will feel like. Embrace an elevated emotion, gratitude, joy, or freedom, and sustain that state regardless of what is happening in your outer environment. When you do this, you are no longer in a state of waiting, you are in a state of having. Gratitude, the ultimate state of receivership. When you are truly grateful, you are signaling to the field that the event has already happened. You are no longer bonded to the pain of what was. You are now bonded to the possibility of what is to be. Transformation requires a radical level of accountability. You can no longer blame your parents, your ex-partner, or the economy for your current state of being. To blame is to say that something outside of you has more power over your thoughts and feelings than you do. To break the emotional bond to the past is to reclaim your sovereignty. It is the process of unmemorizing an emotion that has become part of your identity. When you finally release the anger, the guilt, or the shame, you experience a massive release of energy. That energy, which was once used to keep you anchored to your history, is now the very fuel you will use to build your new personal reality. You are finally free to walk through the door of the unknown. The concept of mental rehearsal is rooted in the understanding that the brain does not distinguish between what is happening in the external world and what you are imagining in the internal world of your mind. When you close your eyes and truly immerse yourself in a specific intention and a future possibility, you begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like the experience has already happened. This is not mere daydreaming or wishful thinking, a highly focused internal process that changes the very structure of your brain. By repeatedly practicing the actions, thoughts, and feelings of the person you want to become, you are priming your nervous system to operate from a new state of being. You are effectively moving from the old self to a new self before the physical evidence has even manifested. Neurologically speaking, when you focus on a single thought or action with total concentration, forcing your brain to fire in new sequences and patterns. If you keep doing this, the hardware eventually becomes a software program. In several famous studies, researchers found that people who mentally rehearsed playing the piano for 5 days showed the same neurological changes in their motor cortex as the people who actually sat at the piano and practiced physically. The brains of the mental rehearsers looked as if they had been playing for 5 days, yet they had never touched a key. This demonstrates that you can change your brain just by changing your thought process. This is the science of neuroplasticity in its most practical application. You are literally wiring yourself for a new personal reality. The key to successful mental rehearsal is the marriage of a clear intention with an elevated emotion. If you just think about a new car or a new health status, but you still feel the same old emotions of lack or illness, your body is receiving a conflicting signal. The mind is sending the thought, but the body is still anchored in the old feeling. To truly change your reality, you must rehearse the new behavior until it becomes familiar, and then you must add the feeling of what that future would be like. If you want to be wealthy, rehearse the thoughts and actions of a wealthy person and feel the abundance now. If you want to be healed, you must feel the gratitude of being healthy now. When the thought and the feeling become one, you are signaling the body to enter a new state of existence. As you sit in the stillness and mentally rehearse how you will handle your day, how you will respond to your boss with patience, how you will greet your spouse with love, how you will handle a stressful situation with grace, you are laying down the tracks for your future. When you finally open your eyes and step back into your life, your brain is no longer a record of the past. It is now a map to the future. You have already experienced the victory in your mind, so when the actual situation arises, the body and brain are prepared to act according to the new program you have installed. You are no longer reacting to life as it happens. You are navigating life with a pre-selected destination. This is how you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. The beauty of this process is that it costs nothing but your time and your focus. People are too busy reacting to their environment to take the time to create their environment. They allow their outer world to dictate their inner world. By practicing mental rehearsal, you are reversing that flow. You are using your internal world to change your external world. You are becoming the master of your own biology. When you consistently rehearse the highest version of yourself, that version eventually becomes your default mode. You no longer have to try to be different, you simply are different. The old personality has been replaced by the new architect of reality, and your life must eventually reflect the change you have made within. The moment you decide to leave your familiar life and cross the river of change, you must be prepared for biological rebellion. This is the moment where the body, which has been the mind for years, realizes it is no longer in control. Up until this point, victim of your conditioning, and your body has become accustomed to the chemical homeostasis of your old personality. Whether that state was one of suffering, resentment, or lack, the body grew comfortable in that misery because it was predictable. When you sit down to create a new personal reality and begin to signal new thoughts and emotions, you are essentially threatening the body's comfort zone. This is where the real work begins. The body will use every tool in its arsenal to pull you back to the safety of the known. As you attempt to reach for an elevated emotion or a new way of thinking, the body starts to send signals to the brain. It begins to produce thoughts like, "You're not good enough. This feels weird. Why don't you just check your phone?" Or you can start this tomorrow. These are not your thoughts. These are the voices of the body trying to regain its status as the master. Body is a chemical laboratory, and it is addicted to the hormones of stress. When you stop providing those chemicals, it goes into a state of withdrawal, much like an addict. Try to seduce you back into your old habits of thought and behavior just to get its fix of familiar chemistry. If you succumb to these voices, you return to the same state of being, and your personal reality remains unchanged. To overcome the body's resistance, you must become the master. You must recognize that the discomfort you feel is actually the sensation of the old self dying. It is a biological shedding of the skin. When your body tries to get up, when it feels restless, when it tries to distract you with a sudden itch or a wandering thought, you must settle it back down into the present moment. This is an act of training. You are treating the body like an animal that you are domesticating. Every time you bring your attention back to the present, every time you choose an elevated emotion over a familiar one, you are asserting your dominance over your subconscious programming. You are telling the body that it is no longer the mind. You are the mind. This is the transition from being a victim of your biology to becoming the sovereign ruler of your inner world. This resistance is the threshold between the old world and the new world. Most people stop here because the unknown feels too uncomfortable. They mistake this discomfort for a sign that what they are doing isn't working, when in fact, it is the exact opposite. The discomfort is the proof that you are changing. If you can stay in that space of the unknown, despite the body's protests, begin to break the physical bonds that have kept you prisoner to your past. You are teaching the body to follow the lead of a new conscious mind. You are proving that you are more than your physical sensations and more than your memorized emotions. When you successfully navigate this resistance, you reach a state of internal peace and clarity that was previously inaccessible. You have conquered the most difficult obstacle in the path of transformation yourself. Overcoming the body's resistance requires a relentless commitment to the vision of your future. You must value that vision more than you value your current comfort. You must be willing to endure the death of the old personality to give birth to the new one. It is a process of refinement where you are stripping away the subconscious layers of fear and limitation. When the body finally surrenders, it becomes the servant of the mind once again. It begins to align with your new intentions. Energy that was once trapped in resistance is released into your field. You are now prepared to move into a state of coherence and creation, where the mind and body are working in harmony toward the manifestation of your new personal reality. To truly change your personal reality, you must understand the powerful relationship between the two most influential organs in your body. For most of our lives, we live in a state of incoherence. We think one way and feel another. Our brain is trying to move toward a goal, but our heart is heavy with the weight of the past. When your thoughts and feelings are at odds, you are sending a scattered, incoherent signal into the quantum field. Like trying to broadcast a radio station with static, the message never gets through. To become a creator of your life, you must move into a state of coherence, where your heart and your brain are beating and firing in one synchronized, rhythmic harmony. This is the state of total alignment where the impossible becomes possible. The brain is the center of intention, the place where we hold the what and the how of our future. But the heart is the center of our magnetism. Research in neurocardiology has shown that the heart has its own complex nervous system, often referred to as the little brain in the heart. When we experience elevated emotions like gratitude, appreciation, and love, the heart begins to beat in a consistent, orderly fashion. This heart coherence creates a measurable electromagnetic field that radiates out from the body. While the brain sends the electrical charge into the field, it is the heart that provides the magnetic charge that draws experiences to us. You marry a clear intention in the brain with an elevated emotion in the heart, you are broadcasting a whole new energetic signature that the universe responds to. Most people live in a state of survival, which creates heart and brain incoherence. When you are stressed, your heart rate becomes erratic and your brain waves become high beta, which is a state of emergency. In this state, you are narrow, focused on the problem, and you are emotionally reactive. You are literally out of sync with yourself. To shift this, you must learn to breathe through your heart center and consciously summon an elevated emotion. You don't wait for something good to happen to feel gratitude. You feel the gratitude first. As you do this, the heart sends a signal to the brain that it is safe to create. The brain then moves into a state of alpha or theta waves, which is the state of suggestibility and creativity. You have now bridged the gap between the conscious and subconscious mind. When the heart and brain are in coherence, you are no longer a victim of your environment. You are operating from a state of wholeness rather than a state of lack. In survival mode, we are always trying to get something from the outside to change the way we feel on the inside. In the state of heart, brain coherence, we feel as though the event has already occurred, and therefore we are no longer in a state of wanting. This is the secret to manifestation. When you are in a state of having, you become a magnet for the very things you desire. The synchronous rhythm of your internal state begins to reorganize the external atoms of your life. You start to see synchronicities, coincidences, and opportunities that align with your new frequency. Maintaining this state requires practice. It is easy to feel grateful when everything is going your way, but the master feels grateful even in the midst of a challenge. By sustaining heart-brain coherence, you are signaling to your body that the future is already here. You are literally changing your biology and your chemistry from the inside out. This coherence acts as an internal compass, keeping you steady even when the outer world is in chaos. You are no longer swayed by the opinions of others or the limitations of your past. You are a sovereign being, moving with the power of an aligned mind and heart. This is the foundation upon which your new personal reality is built. A foundation that is unshakable because it is rooted in your own internal power. In the realm of quantum physics, is a fundamental principle that states that the observer influences the observed. This means that your attention is the most valuable currency you possess. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. Your attention is constantly directed toward your pain, your financial lack, your difficult boss, or your past failures. You are effectively pouring your life force into those very things, causing them to persist and solidify in your reality. You are acting as an observer who keeps collapsing the same old possibilities into the same old outcomes. To change your personal reality, master the observer effect by consciously withdrawing your energy from the known world of your problems and placing it onto the unknown world of new possibilities. The quantum field contains all potentials simultaneously, an invisible field of energy and information that exists beyond space and time, containing every possible version of your life, from the version where you are perfectly healthy to the version where you are exceptionally abundant. Possibilities exist as waves of probability. It is the act of observation that causes these waves to collapse into particles or physical events in your life. If you wake up every morning and look at your life through the same eyes, the same state of being, you are observing the same reality into existence. You are literally telling the field to give you more of what you already have. To break this cycle, learn to observe a new potential with such clarity and emotional intensity that the field has no choice but to respond to your new frequency. Becoming a powerful observer requires you to become pure consciousness. This happens when you move beyond your identification with your body, the people you know, the objects you own, and even time itself. When you're no longer somebody living in a somewhere at a sometime, you become a focus point of awareness in the unified field. State of being no thing. You have the power to influence the everything. You are no longer looking at your life from the inside out. You are looking at it from the perspective of the Creator. When you hold the vision of your new life and marry it with the elevated emotion of gratitude, you are signaling the field. You are no longer chasing your future. You are observing it into your present. The challenge for most of us is that we are conditioned to believe only in what we can perceive with our five senses. We wait for the healing to happen before we feel the health, or we wait for the money to arrive before we feel the abundance. In the quantum model, the feeling must come first. You must observe the health or the abundance as if it is already your current reality. When your internal state of being is more real to you than the external world, you are mastering the observer effect. You are essentially telling the physical world that you are no longer a slave to its conditions. You are declaring that your internal vision is the true reality, and the external world must eventually reorganize itself to match that internal template. This is how you move from being a victim of circumstance to being a master of manifestation. Every time you catch your mind wandering back to your old problems and you consciously pull your attention back to your new vision, are exercising your power as an observer. You are refusing to give your energy to the past. You are choosing to stay in the present moment where the power of creation lives. Requires a relentless level of focus and a refusal to be swayed by the evidence of your current senses. You are looking past the known and into the unknown. The more you can maintain this new observation, more you begin to see the ripples in the field, the synchronicities and coincidences that tell you your new personal reality is drawing near. You are no longer a passive bystander in the story of your life. You are the conscious observer who is literally dreaming a new world into being. When you finally integrate these truths, you realize that you were never a victim of your genes, your past, or your environment. You were simply caught in a cycle of unconscious repetition. The moment you decide to wake up and consciously curate your thoughts and emotions, you step out of the predictable timeline of the old self and into the infinite potential of the quantum field. Have been given the biological and energetic machinery to be the architect of your own destiny. The transformation of your personal reality is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens because of you. The natural result of a mind and heart that have finally decided to move in the same direction. As you leave the old self behind, do not look back with regret or fear. The discomfort you feel is the sensation of liberation. You are now vibrating at a different frequency, and as you change your energy, you change your life. You are no longer waiting for a reason to feel joy, or a reason to feel empowered, or a reason to feel successful. You have become the cause of those feelings within yourself. By the law of the universe, when you change your state of being, the world around you must reorganize itself to reflect the new person you have become. You are the miracle you have been waiting for. Your new reality is already beginning to fold into the present moment.